before he instituted the church or the state. The first commandment God gave to Adam and Eve was be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. He made a wife. See, he made a wife for Adam, a helpmate. So it's God himself who instituted marriage. And children, for ideal development, need both, a husband and wife, not just committed to that child, but committed to one another.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a lot of questions.
That's all right.
Let's see. Okay, I got sidetracked. Why do I have to believe in Jesus Christ and the Scripture to go to heaven? Why can't I just be a good person and still go to heaven?
Okay,
Be a good person throughout my whole life, just not believe in Jesus.
To answer that, I'd have to define what do we essentially mean about heaven. What heaven essentially is an eternal loving relationship with God. Just like, now that's not all it is, but that's what it essentially is. It's like, you hear that word home. What is home essentially to you? Not a house, not a building. It might be a shack, but it's beautiful. You're at home, your parents are there, your grandparents maybe, all your friends are there. That's where you grew up. That's what it essentially is about. Your home is essentially about relationships. So heaven is essentially about a loving relationship with God. Hell, on the other hand, is essentially separation from God. And people in this life choose to turn their back on God and not relate to Him. And to turn your back on God, you automatically turn your face towards hell. And God sets up all these roadblocks to try to turn you around. I'm a roadblock. I'm saying, stop! Consider your ways. You're headed for an abyss. You're about to fall into the abyss. Stop, stop, stop. And people continue in their mad dash to hell. See, God can't force you into heaven. And He sent His Son to demonstrate His love for you by making the ultimate sacrifice of laying down His life. And people still refuse to hear and refuse to believe.
I have another question. So Jesus God sends His Son to make the ultimate sacrifice because He loves us.
Yeah.
Right? So why isn't that love strong enough to, I don't know, send everyone to heaven?
It should be. When you really see how loving this is, how God has made the ultimate sacrifice, that should make a believer out of everyone. A lot of people.
Why doesn't it?
Because people refuse, they have a hard heart, they're selfish. And if we're going to follow Christ in His love, we have to make a commitment to be loving ourselves. And to be loving, what does that cross symbolize? Death, abandonment, rejection, self-sacrifice, self-denial. So if we're going to be loving, we got to live a life of self-sacrifice, self-denial. But most people are determined to do their own thing. If it feels good, do it. They're selfish. They refuse to change. You see, God's got to make you fit for heaven. If God were to allow selfish liars, thieves, murderers, rapists, unbelievers into heaven, heaven would soon cease to become heaven.
I have another question.
Yeah.
That leads. No, please don't take pictures.
Oh, okay.
That leads me to, if God is omnipotent, why are we flawed as humans? Why do we have so many flaws? If we're made from God, if we're made from, He's perfect.
God gave man a free will, and when He made man with a free will, He limited his power.
Do you consider disabled people imperfection? Do you consider disease imperfection?
They are, when man sinned, he brought all sorts of
Let me just start with the first thing that comes to mind.
Morally, physically, we've all sinned. We've all followed His bad examples. We didn't have to. If had Adam or none of our forefathers sinned, we never sinned. I don't think there would be physical handicaps, maladies. There would not be all these wars, racism, crime, violence. We all love one another. We all loved our enemy, never to eliminate
My
war.
first thing comes to my mind is the biggest evidential experience.
Am I answering your questions? He seems
Literature
to
on
think
the
so.
subject.
Your problem, you don't listen.
Now, if we were to get to,
He doesn't like the answer. That's the bottom line. He's not looking for an answer.
Deadly confusing and obfuscating.
We're just having a
not
conversation.
scholars.
I'm not
That's why
trying to
I
argue.
tend to go away. So
Yeah, I
here's my
think
problem. It's one God.
did you ever see the movie
Yahweh,
Bruce
all the same,
Almighty?
one God.
You know, I think it deals, that movie
You
is
have the same
funny,
stories of Adam,
but
the
it
first
also
man,
deals with
and
these
then he
questions you're bringing up.
But
sending
I just think it's very unfair to be judged on what my ancestors
setting
did.
their lives on it. Wait,
I don't want to have.
Oh, you're not. You're not judged by what Adam did. You're judged by the fact that you've eaten of the forbidden fruit yourself. You've chosen to live selfishly. We all have. We've all chosen to turn our back on God. We've all chosen not to listen to Him. No, you're not judged on account of what you're in. Now, we do suffer, you know, on account. And for that matter, you probably get a lot of blessings you don't deserve from your ancestors who worked hard and so on, and, you know, made this country a beautiful place to live. So we get a lot of undeserved blessings from our ancestors. We do, unfortunately, get some undeserved curses from them. But we're not
let's go back.
accountable
Where's your
for Adam's sin. We're only accountable for any of our ancestors' sin. We're only accountable for our own sin.
No, I know.
I wanted to illustrate this with the movie Bruce Almighty, some of the things we're talking about. Remember, Bruce is a newscaster. He wants the anchorman job. And when he doesn't get it, he curses and blames God. Well, God hears him, played by Morgan Freeman in a white suit, and he appears to Bruce and he says, Bruce, I've heard all your complaints. You don't seem to think I govern too well. You seem to think maybe you could do better. Well, Bruce, maybe you can. You know, being God isn't all that easy. And he says, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you my powers and see how well you do. Maybe you'll do better. And he says, but remember this, Bruce, you can't mess with free will. Because I don't mess with free will. So Bruce gets these supernatural powers. Anything he speaks comes to pass. And he just does rather silly things. He, you know, pronounces bigger boobs on his girlfriend, and she gets bigger breasts. Well, then Bruce begins to hear these millions and millions of prayers. And he's real frustrated. You know, the farmer's praying for rain, and the pastor of the church is praying for sun for the Sunday school picnic. You know, it's not easy being God and trying to answer all these prayers. And Bruce, in frustration, just answers yes to every prayer. Well, a lot of people have been trained to win the lottery. So many people praying, everyone wins, but there's so many people praying, each person only gets a few bucks and no one is happy. So Bruce lives with this girl named Grace. And Grace is...
Why are you giving us a summary of Hollywood films?
It has a message to it. Has a message to it. You know, any movie you go to is going to have a message to it and an idea it's trying to convey. You're probably not aware of that, but I am.
You know how corrupt?
So anyway, we'll go on with the story. We're reaching the climax. Don't have a premature, you know what?
Ejaculation.
Okay. So Bruce's girlfriend Grace leaves him, and it's not the first time she's left him. But Bruce is one of these sweet-talking guys. He knows how to say the right things, to play on a girl's sympathy and bring her home. So he goes to the school where she's teaching, gives all the old lines that have always worked in the past. But finally, Grace has heard them too many times, one too many times, and she just looks upon Bruce with disgust. So Bruce is frustrated, and he decides he's going to resort to her supernatural powers. And he gets in her face and says, love. Well, in the past, anything he speaks comes to pass. It doesn't work this time. Why?
That's what I said. It's not perfect.
Well, come on. Why?
Free will.
Free will. Yeah, he's messing with free will. So, in frustration, Bruce goes to God and says, God, how do I get her to love me again? Anybody remember how God answers? It expresses the theme of the whole movie. If you don't get this, you didn't get it. You just got the humor. Bruce said, or God says, Bruce,
when it's clear.
Welcome to my world.
Evidence.
When you
of-
figure that
of
one
the
out,
literature,
tell me. See, this is God's
and then if we
problem.
get into-
How does He get us to
So
love
your
Him
point is,
again?
It seems scientifically.
See, love is a choice.
So you
Even
just
God can't make you love Him.
Is that your
It's a
biggest
choice.
regret?
It's voluntary. Any more than you could make some girl love you. You can be kind. You can be sweet. But you know, she's still bound to be indifferent to
Let's
you.
agree.
So, can anyone think of a greater act of love than giving your life for another? We call that the ultimate sacrifice. But God commends His love towards us, and while we were yet His enemies, Christ gave Himself for us. And when we really see what He's done, that ought to change us, transform us, and make us fit for His kingdom, make us fit for heaven. See, God's got to make us fit for heaven. And it's through the atoning sacrifice of Christ that He does that. That's the ultimate. There's nothing greater God can do than He's already done to convince of us of His love, but we're still indifferent to the story. A lot of Christians are kind of indifferent. You know, they just go to church, they go through the motions,